everyone. I, Rajeshwari Shirkanhalli, welcome you all in Nagesh Karasgi Orchid School channel. Students, in the last session we have discussed about Newton's first law of motion. After that we have discussed about inertia and mass. In Newton's first law of motion we have seen that the first law states that the object continues in its state of rest or of uniform motion unless an external unbalanced force acts on it. After that we have seen that this law is also called as law of inertia. So what is inertia? It is the tendency of the body to resist the change, means it wants to remain in the same state. If it is at rest, it wants to remain at rest, and if it is moving, it wants to keep on moving. After that we have seen the relation between mass and inertia. So if the mass is more, means the object is heavy, then the inertia which it offers is also more, and if mass is less, means if the object is light, then the inertia offered by that object is also less. That means mass and inertia directly proportional to each other. Today we are going to discuss about Newton's second law of motion. So let's see what is second law of motion. The first law of motion indicates that when an unbalanced external force acts on object, its velocity changes. That is, the object gets an acceleration. So in the first law of motion what we have discussed, that when unbalanced force acts on the object, then the object is set into motion or the moving object gets stopped, means there is a change in the state, and during that process the velocity also changes. We would now like to study how the acceleration of an object depends on the force applied to it. Students, in the last chapter, that is chapter number 8, motion, we have discussed about acceleration. So what is acceleration? It is nothing but rate of change of velocity, means final velocity minus initial velocity per unit time. So let's see how this acceleration of an object depends on the force applied to it and how we measure a force. Let us recount some observations from our daily life. Okay, so from our everyday life, let's see some of the observations. Now for example, during the game of table tennis, if the ball hits a player, it does not hurt him, isn't it? While playing table tennis, the table tennis ball sometimes hits the player, but the player doesn't get any hurt from that. On the other hand, when a fast moving cricket ball hits a spectator, it may hurt him. Okay, so in both the situations there are balls. In the first situation there is a tennis ball, and second situation it is having a cricket ball. Tennis ball doesn't hurt the player, whereas a fast moving cricket ball may hurt the spectator sitting over there. Now second example, a truck at rest does not require any attention when parked alongside. Okay, so alongside of the road we find many vehicles parked. They don't drag our attraction, they don't drag our attention at all. But a moving truck, even at speeds as low as 5 meters per second, may kill a person standing in its path. Okay, if suppose the truck is parked on the roadside, you can go and stand in front of the truck for number of hours. It doesn't make any difference. But if suppose the same truck is moving with a speed which is 5 meters per second, which is very less speed, then also that truck can kill a person standing in its path. A small mass such as bullet may kill a person when fired from a gun. Okay, so bullet is a very small object and it has very less mass, but even this bullet can kill the person when fired from a gun. These observations suggest that the impact produced by the objects depends on their mass and velocity. Okay, so the impact is not only dependent on the mass, it also depends on velocity. So mass and velocity, these are two important factors which are responsible for the impact of the object. Similarly, if an object is to be accelerated, we know that a greater force is required to give a greater velocity. In other words, there appears to exist some quantity of importance that combines the object's mass and its velocity. Okay, so what we can say, to start to accelerate the given object to a greater level, then greater velocity is required. That means, in other words, what can be said, that there is some quantity existing which is the combined quantity of mass and velocity. So one such property called momentum was introduced by Newton. So students, in this second law we are going to discuss about momentum. So this momentum is the factor which is based on mass and acceleration. Okay, so this is introduced by Newton. The momentum P, momentum is denoted by the symbol P, of an object is defined as the product of its mass and velocity. So what is momentum? It is the product of mass m and velocity v. Product means its multiplication. So we get this mathematical formula, P is equal to mv, where P is the momentum, m is the mass and v is the velocity. Momentum has both direction and magnitude. Okay, so like force, momentum also requires direction as well as magnitude. What is magnitude? It is nothing but its numerical value. Its direction is the same as that of velocity v. So in which direction the velocity is acting, in the same direction the momentum acts. The SI unit of momentum is kilogram meter per second. So what is the unit of momentum? Kg meter s raised to minus 1, means kg meter per second. So see here, this kilogram, kg is the unit of mass and meter per second is the unit of velocity. So the product of mass and velocity means the product of kg meter per second. So that is kg m s raised to minus 1, that is the unit of momentum. Since the application of an unbalanced force brings a change in the velocity of the object, it is therefore clear that a force also produces a change of momentum. Okay, so you know that when unbalanced force acts on any object, the velocity of the object gets changed. Okay, that means change in the velocity is the result of action of an unbalanced force. So it changes the velocity, means if suppose here the v value changes, means obviously p value also changes, isn't it? That means force also produces a change of momentum. Now let us consider a situation in which a car with a dead battery is to be pushed along a straight road to give it a speed of 1 ms raised to minus 1. Okay, which is sufficient to start its engine. So for starting the engine of the car, the required speed is 1 meter per second. So that speed should be given to the car by pushing it. The car cannot be started by its own because the battery is dead. There is a dead battery. If one or two persons give a sudden push to it, it hardly starts. You know that in the lower classes you have learnt that force is nothing but a push or pull. So here if one or two people are pushing the car, means they are applying the unbalanced force, then it hardly starts. But a continuous push over some time results in a gradual acceleration of the car to this speed. Okay, so suddenly if a push is given to the car, it hardly starts, but if the car is pushed continuously, then finally the acceleration gets increased and the car acquires that speed which is required for starting its engine, means the speed of 1 meter per second. It means that the change of momentum of the car is not only determined by the magnitude of the force, but also by the time during which the force is exerted. Okay, so just now we have discussed that the magnitude of the momentum is dependent on the magnitude of the velocity, but along with that it also dependent on the time during which the force is exerted. It may then also be concluded that the force which is necessary to change the momentum of an object depends on the time rate at which the momentum is changed. Okay, so means here time factor is very important. The second law of motion states that the rate of change of momentum means change of momentum per unit time. Change of momentum means final momentum minus initial momentum per unit time. So, that is called as rate of change of momentum of an object is proportional to the applied unbalanced force in the direction of force. So, this rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to the unbalanced force applied. So, let us study this second law of motion mathematically. So, mathematical formulation of second law of motion. Suppose there is an object of mass m. It is moving along a straight line with an initial velocity u. It is uniformly accelerated to velocity v in time t by the application of a constant force F throughout time t. Students, you are familiar with all these abbreviations. In last chapter, that is motion, we have all discussed these abbreviation. M stands for mass, U stands initial velocity, V stands final velocity, T stands time and F stands force. Now, the initial and final momentum of the object will be P1 and P2. Okay, just now we have seen the formula P is equal to mv, means momentum is equal to mass into velocity. Now, for initial momentum it is P1 and it is equal to mass into initial velocity. So, P1 formula is P1 is equal to mu. Why here u is taken? Because this is initial momentum. So, we have to consider here initial velocity. And similarly, for final momentum, we consider it as P2 and its formula is P2 is equal to mv. So, what is v here? It is final velocity. Now, the change of momentum is directly proportional to P2 minus P1. Momentum is changed, means from initial momentum, final momentum is obtained. So, how much the momentum has changed? How will you calculate that? Final momentum minus initial momentum. Now, in this substitute the values of this P2 and P1 from these two formulae. So, what is P2? P2 is nothing but mv. So, substitute here P2 value as mv minus P1. What is P1? mu. So, it is mv minus mu. Is there anything common here? Yes, you are right. M is common. So, take m common, you will get v minus u in the bracket. So, it is m into v minus u. Okay, so this is change in momentum. Change in momentum is directly proportional to m into v minus u. Now, the rate of change of momentum. Rate of change of momentum means at which rate the momentum is changed. So, the rate of change of momentum is directly proportional to change of momentum per unit time, means m into v minus u upon t. the rate of change of momentum is dependent on the applied unbalanced force. So, we can also write this as F. F stands for force, unbalanced force. So, F is directly proportional to this rate of change of momentum, means m into v minus u upon t. Now, here there is a proportionality sign which we do not want. So, we have to remove that proportionality sign. So, as you know that for removing the proportionality sign we have to take a constant k. So, F is equal to k into m into v minus u upon t. Okay. Now, k into m. Now, just look at this remaining part of the equation, v minus u upon t. Have you got something? This is our first equation of motion which we have discussed in the last chapter, chapter number 8, motion. We have seen that v is equal to u plus at. After substituting that, we have got v minus u is equal to at, or v minus u upon t is equal to a. So, here v minus u upon t is there. So, this value is nothing but a. So, it is k into m into, substitute this value as a. So, we get F is equal to k m a. So, this is the third equation. Now, here a is v minus u upon t, which is nothing but the acceleration, and you know that acceleration means it is rate of change of velocity. The quantity k is a constant of proportionality. Remember why we have taken k? To remove that proportionality sign. So, this k is called as proportionality constant or constant of proportionality. The SI unit of mass and acceleration are kg and ms raised to minus 2 respectively. So, what is the SI unit of mass? It is kilogram, kg, and SI unit of acceleration is ms raised to minus 2, means meter per second square. The unit of force is so chosen that the value of constant k becomes 1. So, for this, one unit of force is defined as the amount that produces an acceleration of 1 meter per second square in an object of 1 kg mass. Okay, so, here we want the value of k as 1. So, for that the unit of force should be chosen properly. So, here one unit force is chosen. What is one unit force? It is nothing but the amount which produces an acceleration of 1 meter per second square, and object is having the mass of 1 kg. So, in this formula if we substitute their units, we get 1 unit of force is equal to k constant into mass. So, what is mass? Its unit is 1 kg into acceleration, its unit if we substitute as 1 ms raised to minus 2, then thus the value of k becomes 1. Okay, so, F is equal to k into 1 means k is equal to 1. So, we have to substitute the value of k is equal to 1 in the previous equation, that is F is equal to kma. F is equal to kma, in that the value of k substitute as 1, we get F is equal to 1 into m into a, means F is equal to ma. So, this is one of the very important formula, force is equal to mass into acceleration, equation 9.4. So, the unit of force is kg meter second raised to minus 2. Okay. Again look at the units of these both the quantities. What is the unit of mass? It is kilogram, and the unit of acceleration is meter per second square, means ms raised to minus 2. So, the combined unit for force is kg ms raised to minus 2, which is nothing but Newton, which has the symbol N. Okay. So, what is the unit of force? It is either kg ms raised to minus 2 or N for Newton. So, the second law of motion gives us a method to measure the force acting on an object as a product of mass and acceleration. So, So students, finally we have arrived at the formula F is equal to ma. That means this second law of motion gives us a method for finding the force, which is nothing but the force of mass and acceleration. Means if we know the mass and acceleration, then very easily we can find out the force. The second law of motion is often seen in action in our everyday life. Have you noticed that while catching a fast moving cricket ball, a fielder in the ground gradually pulls his hands backwards with the moving ball? Isn't it? You all must have observed this action, that during the cricket match, if a fast moving ball is coming to the fielder, then for catching that ball, what the fielder does, he pulls his hands backwards with the moving ball. In doing so, the fielder increases the time during which the high velocity of moving ball decreases to 0. So, by pulling the hands in the backward direction along with the moving ball, he increases the time period which the high velocity of the moving ball decreases to 0. Means he makes the velocity 0. Thus, the acceleration of the ball is decreased, and therefore, the impact of catching the fast moving ball is also reduced. Okay, that means the fielder doesn't get hurt while catching the fast moving ball. Why? Because acceleration decreases as v value decreases. A is equal to v minus u upon t. If v value decreases, then obviously a value also decreases, means acceleration decreases, and the fielder doesn't get hurt. The impact of catching that fast moving ball is decreased, it is reduced. If the ball is stopped suddenly, then its high velocity decreases to 0 in very short interval of time. Thus, the rate of change of momentum of the ball will be large. Okay, so if suppose the ball is stopped suddenly without taking the hands in the backward direction, then what happens? Suddenly that high velocity which the moving ball is having, that decreases to 0 and that becomes very fast. Means this process is in very short interval of time. Means the rate of change of momentum of the ball is very large in this case. Therefore, a large force would have to be applied for holding the catch that may hurt the palm of the fielder. Students, if you are watching cricket match, you all must have seen that sometimes the fast moving ball hits the palm of the fielder and moves away. Why? Because the force required is more to catch that ball suddenly, which is not applied by the fielder. Similarly, in a high jump athletic event, the athletes are made to fall either on a cushioned bed or on a sand bed. You also have experienced this while playing high jump games. Means when you take a high jump, that time there is a sand bed. Okay, so athletes also, when in the athletic event, when athletes take high jump, they are made to fall on a sand bed or a cushioned bed. Do you know why it is so? It is to increase the time of athlete's fall, to stop after making the jump, which decreases the rate of change of momentum, and hence the force also gets decreased. Okay, that means the athlete doesn't get hurt. Try to ponder how a karate player breaks a slab of ice with a single blow. Okay, now see, this is the action in which catching a fast moving ball is shown. So you can see here the hand is pulled down, taken in the backward direction to increase the time period. A fielder pulls his hands gradually with the moving ball while holding a cricket holding a catch. Okay. The first law of motion can be mathematically stated from the mathematical expression for the second law of motion is, we have just now discussed this formula, F is equal to ma. Okay. Now here what is A? It is acceleration. So again remember the first equation of motion. So what is the first equation of motion? A is equal to V minus u upon t. Now substitute this value of A as V minus u upon t. You will get F is equal to m into V minus u upon t. Okay, take this t to the left hand side, it gets multiplied with f, you will get f into t, ft is equal to, now from this m multiply this both the quantities, that is m into v is mv minus m into u is mu. So you get a formula ft is equal to mv minus mu. That is when f is equal to 0, then v is equal to u for whatever time t is taken, isn't it? If f is equal to 0, then this whole LHS becomes 0. Then if minus mu, if you take to the LHS, you will get mu is equal to mv. Gets cancelled, you will get u is equal to v. U is equal to v means v is equal to u. Means initial velocity and final velocity both are equal if f is equal to 0. F is equal to 0 means if force is not acting. So if there is no application of the force, then initial and the final velocity remains same. This means that the object will continue moving with uniform velocity u throughout the time t. If u is 0, then v will also be 0. That is, the object will remain at rest. Okay, in such situation, f is 0 means no force is acting on that. That means there is no change in the state of the object. So it remains at rest. Why? Because the object is moving at uniform velocity. Now let's see a solved example, that is example 9.1. A constant force acts on an object of mass 5 kg for a duration of 2 seconds. So here mass is given 5 kg and time is given 2 seconds. Okay. It increases the object's velocity from 3 ms raised to minus 1 to 7 ms raised to minus 1. Means what is this 3 ms raised to minus 1? It is the initial velocity. Initial velocity is denoted by the symbol u. So u is equal to 3 ms raised to minus 1 and final velocity is v. So v value is 7 ms raised to minus 1. Then you have to find the magnitude of the applied force. Now if the force was applied for a duration of 5 seconds, what would be the final velocity of the object? Now here in first case you have to find out the value of f, and in second case the time is given 5 seconds. Remember, in first case the time is 2 seconds and here it is 5 seconds. Then you have to find out the final velocity. So let us see how to solve that. We have been given that u is 3 ms raised to minus 1, v is 7 meter per second, time is 2 seconds, mass is 5 kg. All this we have discussed. Remember the previous equation, f is equal to m into v minus u upon t. Substitute all the values, f is equal to m is 5 into 7 minus 3 upon 2. 7 minus 3 means 4, 4 upon 2 is 2, 2 into 5 is 10. So 10 Newton is the force. Okay. Now in the second instance, if this force is applied, same force means we have to take the value of f as 10 Newton of 5 seconds, means time is here 5 seconds. Then final velocity we have to find out. So final velocity v is equal to u plus ft upon m. The same equation if you rearrange, you will get v is equal to u plus ft upon m. Substitute all the values, u is 3 into 10 into 5, 50 upon m is 5, 50 upon 5 is 10, 10 plus 3 is 13. So we will get v value as 13 ms raised to minus 1, means final velocity is 13 meter per second square. So students, in this way you should be able to rearrange the different formulae. So based on what things are given and what you have to find out, you have to rearrange the given formula and you have to substitute the given values and you can find out the value. And whenever you get the final answer, you should write it with correct unit. So today we have discussed about second law of motion. Remaining concepts we will proceed in the next session. Today we will stop here. Thank you.